Hello everyone and welcome back to Hypixel Skyblock. Sort of. I'm sure for many of you this is a new scene. So for those of you that don't know, this is the Hypixel forums. And if we scroll down, go to Skyblock, and Skyblock suggestions and feedback. This is where you can find all of, or most of, the suggestions for Skyblock that people submit on the forums. And this is also the theme of today's video. We're going to look through some of these suggestions and see how good, or bad, Skyblock players are at making content for the game. Now there are some I won't talk about simply because I don't know a lot about. For example, the past. This thread does seem pretty well received, but I just don't know a lot about the Rift because I haven't done too much with it, so unfortunately I won't really be talking about it. And similar with other threads, if I don't know too much about that part of the game, I won't really look into the thread because I won't really have much to add. So with that out of the way, let's check out some of these ideas. And what better way to start off than better book of stats. Today I will be writing about the book of stats, how to get it, what it does, what I personally believe it should be, and why it should be changed. Well, I won't talk about the book of stats now because I do think we should all know what it is. But the change. In short, I believe it should be universal. I think I should be able to apply it to my drill to see how many blocks I've mined, apply it to my rod to see how many treasures I've fished, my axe to see how many logs I've broken, etc. This is how I'd make it. Let us right-click the book of stats to select what stat we want to be shown. Then we can apply it and it will show said stat. This is how I personally love for it to be, however many people would prefer a separate book of stats for every stat, or any other idea people may create. Why? Because it opens up the ability to have competitions, personal goals, and more. It gives players the options of aiming to max a stat instead of an item. It allows players to watch as their progress continues. So, everything considered, I love to see this in-game. It has abilities for players to grind in a competition, grow their progress, and more. At the end of the day, it's a cosmetic change. Nothing game-breaking happens if this is added or not. And it does look like there is an attachment, which is simply how they'd imagine the item description to look. Book of Stats, Item Abilities, Stat Finder. Right-click. When right-clicked, this book flutters open, allowing you to select the stat you wish to be shown. Once chosen, it cannot be reverted. Once you've chosen your statistic, use an anvil to apply it. Very simple suggestion, but this is definitely something that could be added. Skyblock as a whole is literally just a game about increasing numbers, and the Book of Stats is the epitome of it. It would be really cool if you could apply it to, say, a tool or an armor piece maybe, if you want to track how much damage you've taken. But yeah, very simple change, and I don't see why it shouldn't be added really. I will say though, I do specifically like this iteration of the idea. I have seen suggestions before where people suggest separate books of stats for each different stat, but I do think this is better since it opens up creativity for which stats can be shown. And an example given is highest kill combo, most magic find, etc. With separate books of stats, the bingo shop would be flooded with them if there were to be any unique, specific stats like that. But if everything is condensed into one book and you can simply choose which specific stat you want to track, that leaves the bingo shop menu so much more clean. So yeah, overall, very simple but very good idea. And what also looks like a very good and simple idea, the dye bleach / dye remover. Ooh, this is also a pretty old thread, being made on August 31st, 2024. But anyways, since dyes are common / obtainable now, well, more or less, there should be a way to restore the original armor set color. For example, on release of the lucky dye, I applied it on my Infernal Crimson. However, after having it for so long, I wish I could get the original orange color back. Please add a way to get it back, such as an item from the bit shop, because now they look like a carrot. Again, very simple idea that does make a lot of sense and should be added. Like, I really don't think there's any reason to try to dispute this. So yeah, let the carrot cook. Now let's take a look at sack for dungeon mob armor drops. I like getting the mob armor drops as the essence from them is nice, but having to go every 1 or 2 runs to salvage is frankly annoying, so having a sack that could store the mob drops would be nice. Alternatively, replacing mob drops with the essence drops would also be nice, and only dropping full 50-50 rolls. That would be nice, if sacks actually worked that way. But the way sacks work is they hold any item that can be stored in bulk. As far as I know, any item with a UID can't be stored in a sack. For example, armor, weapon, perfect gemstones I think, etc. We do currently have a way that lets you store mob armor drops though, and those are called backpacks. As someone without a rank and only 2 wardrobe slots, I still have a bunch of backpack space open, specifically to hold any random drops that I get from whatever I'm doing. So for people with ranks, who actually have access to a bunch of wardrobe slots and don't need a backpack dedicated specifically for armor, you should have a lot of backpack space open to store these drops until you can have some downtime. As for the second part of the suggestion, I definitely don't think it's a good idea to completely replace mob drops with essence drops, unless you have a way to toggle it. For example, what if you add a new accessory to the dungeon essence shop? With the accessory toggled on, it'll automatically salvage any drops you get that aren't auto-recommed, have perfect stat rolls, or are considered rare drops like Ice Spray. Because that's another thing to consider. If you can only get the item when it's a perfect roll, Ice Spray prices are going to go through the roof. But yeah, ideally the accessory would function similar to the auto deleter, but you just get essence instead of deleting the armor pieces. Though that is a different idea from what this person is suggesting, so I'm not going to try to cook that up perfectly for something that isn't even my own thread. But yeah, those are my thoughts, so let's go on to another one. Gene splicing. Now I was looking at this one before and I do have a lot of thoughts about it, because I may or may not have actually recorded for about an hour or so, and completely forgot to turn on my mic, but that's besides the point. Gene splicing can be done to a pet by obtaining an intragenic scalpel, which can be bought from a mysterious merchant in Shifty's bar, Jackal. This NPC will give you an intragenic scalpel after a quest. She will ask you to get 9 items in the following order: Wood Singularity, Ink Wand, Plumber's Sponge, Enchanted Hay Bale, Rogue Sword requiring a random blacksmith reforge, which is oddly specific but okay, Enchanted Bookshelf, Bluetooth Ring, and 1 IQ point, which is the hardest thing for players to find. Intragenic Scalpel. Right-click a level 100 mythic pet to get a gene from that pet, which will reset it to a level 1 legendary pet. It also has a cooldown of 24 hours applying to all items, which I'm assuming means you can't buy a second intragenic scalpel to bypass the cooldown, which is a good thing to consider if you do want to have a cooldown on this. Genes. The first time you extract a gene from a unique pet, you get 100,000 alchemy XP and 25 skyblock XP. Each gene grants a specific effect called a mutation when consumed. Mutations. When you click on your profile, you can switch your mutation here. And if we open up this image, it seems like it'll be in the bottom right corner. Mutations are permanently unlocked, but switching them makes you queasy for 2 hours. While queasy, you can't switch to another mutation. You can also switch to no mutation, even when queasy, but switching out from none will still be impossible. I'm guessing impossible for those 2 hours while it's on cooldown. Each mutation grants special buffs, but also nerfs. Each gene also grants intrinsic effects, which will be active when the mutation isn't active, and I'm guessing those are just passive bonuses you get as long as you have the mutation unlocked. For example, the Bat Pet grants the Vampiric mutation, which heals you for 1% of your HP on kill, stacking with Vampirism, but all pets have base stats as if they were 10 levels lower. If not active, it will instead heal you for 0.35% of your HP on kill. The Gene. The Gene is a special gene obtained from the mythic Jerry pet. Rather than unlocking a mutation, it allows you to spawn King Jerry. King Jerry will offer you the Jerry crown for 10 million coins worth of emeralds. While worn, it makes the inhabitants of the Winter Island reveal themselves. Jerrys on the Winter Island will appear as zombie villagers client side. You can cure them with a weakness potion and a golden apple, and curing all of them will reward you with 100 skyblock XP. Now let's start with the actual gene splicing mechanic. I do like that gene splicing resets the pet from mythic to legendary. This means pet items that increase your pet's rarity to mythic have at least a little more use now. Instead of only needing 1, you need, well, I guess only 2. But that's still double the use value, so hey. I don't really think it needs a cooldown though. I feel like the cooldown is only there to prevent players who already have a bunch of mythic pets from immediately getting all the genes. But in that case, I don't really see the point in having it. Those players already put the work in, or money, to get a level 100 mythic pet. I just don't see the point in time gating them for 24 hours just to experience the mechanic. As for this next part, the way it's worded just feels off to me for some reason. It's specified that the first time you extract a gene, you get some extra rewards for it. But is there really a reason to extract a gene more than once? If you only need 1 to get the mutation and there's no other use for it, it feels weird that you'd even have the ability to splice a specific gene more than once. And it also just feels redundant that you'd get an item from splicing that you'd then consume. Unless these genes have a secondary use that just isn't mentioned in the thread yet, I feel like a lot of this could just be taken out and instead have it function similar to Power Stones. So once you splice the gene, you immediately unlock it in your profile and get the rewards for unlocking that specific mutation. Once you get a specific mutation, you won't be able to splice any more of that gene. Essentially, it would just function the same way without all the extra fluff in between. Now, as for the mutation mechanic, honestly, it just feels weird to have it in your profile of all places. Like, your accessory powers aren't even accessible from your profile, so it feels weird to have this mechanic here instead of that. Honestly, something that could be done is to just have power and tuning point customization available from your profile too. Then there could be a new section of your profile, maybe labeled stat customization or something, where players would be able to change their power and tuning points, as well as these mutations, all from their profile. Either that, or I don't think mutations should be accessible from your profile, and instead should be done through an NPC, which could also have an Abiphone contact. I also don't really understand why there's a cooldown for switching, since there isn't a cooldown for switching accessory powers, but if that is for like lore reasons or something, the cooldown definitely should be lowered from 2 hours. Maybe it could be 5 minutes or 10 minutes or something, but 2 hours is just a really long time. As for the gene, I think the cost for the Jerry Crown could just be changed to a very specific amount of enchanted emeralds, or enchanted emerald blocks or whatever. Specifying 10 million coins worth of emeralds just seems like an odd way to require a specific amount of emeralds. 1 emerald can be sold for 4 coins to an NPC, so if we do a bit of math, 10 million coins divided by 4 would be 2.5 million emeralds, or 15.6 thousand enchanted emeralds, or 97 and then some enchanted emerald blocks. So yeah, instead of specifying some weird conversion rate, just make the crown cost 100 enchanted emerald blocks. As for the quest, it seems fine enough, though I do wonder what the lore implications are for all the Winter Jerrys actually being dead. But that aside, I also think the Skyblock XP should be lowered. Like, significantly. 100 Skyblock XP seems like kind of a lot, considering the quest itself isn't even that difficult, and you already get 25 Skyblock XP from originally splicing the gene. So yeah, maybe it could be lowered to like 10 Skyblock XP, because getting a full level from doing this just seems pretty excessive. As for the mechanic as a whole, I do have some pretty mixed feelings about it. In my opinion, it just feels like Accessory Powers Part 2. Like, the entire mechanic of mutations just feels like accessory powers that don't scale. The actual gene splicing mechanic does seem pretty unique, and I do think it could be pretty cool if it gets fine-tuned. But as for the mutations, I don't really think it needs an entirely new mechanic for it. What if instead, completing Jackal's quest also gives you an accessory, the genetic multi-syringe. Like other toggleable accessories, you can right-click it to disable its effects. As for its effects, if you shift right-click with it in your hand, it'll open up a menu where you can fill it with one of each gene. When a gene is in the syringe, you can select it to activate its mutation. The effect of your chosen mutation will also appear in the accessory's description. Intrinsic effects could then be simplified to adding flat stat boosts to the accessory itself. For example, if you get a gene from a mythic bat pet, you can put that gene into the syringe. With the syringe toggle on, you can then select vampiric mutation, and as long as the gene is in the accessory, it would also give the accessory +1 vitality, similar to how the Relic of Power works with gemstones. If the accessory is toggled off, you can still benefit from the base stats added to the accessory. So again, for example, if the accessory is toggled off, the accessory's vampiric mutation won't actually be active, but you will still get the +1 vitality from having it inside the accessory. And again, you'd be able to hold one of each unique mutation, which means from inside the accessory, you can still switch between which mutation is active. And regardless of which one is active, you still get the small stat boosts from just having the gene inside the accessory. Overall, gene splicing seems like a pretty cool mechanic, but mutations don't seem grand enough to warrant their own entirely new mechanic. Instead, I do think it could build off of mechanics that already exist in the game, such as accessories. But yeah, those are my thoughts on it. So, on to the next one. How about we check out Bestiary updates? Instead of using tabs for different islands, use them for different enemy types, and use columns for each island inside the enemy type, marked by the head in the warp menu. For example, okay, low quality is correct. Honestly, this just seems worse. Like, it just looks a lot more cluttered. I do think not using a resource pack would help a lot with trying to show what you mean, but still, I think it makes a lot more sense for the bestiary to be separated by island rather than enemy type. There is at least a point to having the bestiary organized by island, and I don't really see a reason to have it organized by mob type. And add sorting features where you can sort by level, name, progress, and disable maxed out ones. I guess that could be useful. Level is completely arbitrary right now, so I don't think there's really a point in sorting by level. Sorting by progress would be a nice option, and instead of disabling maxed out ones, what could be done is, when you sort by progress, maxed out bestiaries are instead put at the bottom. That way, the first bestiaries that show up are the ones you're closest to finishing, and the ones you have finished are moved to the bottoms because you've already maxed out their progress. Also a rework to the GUI since there are new bestiary milestones coming out with each new mob. And again, I think not having a resource pack would do wonders with making this GUI clearer, but I also don't really think it's necessary. It's been a while since I checked, and I can't really check right now, but I'm assuming it either looks like the museum milestone page or the skill level up page. I'll take a screenshot later and put it up just for reference, but I don't really think the GUI needs to be changed. If the admins need to, they can just add more pages to it. Skinning Blade, Wood Sword, 100 base damage, gains +1 damage and 0.5 strength for each bestiary milestone maxed out. Now, I think there are 339 bestiary milestones currently, which means at max, you'd have 439 damage and 169.5 strength, or 269.5 strength with Wooden Singularity. I don't know, it just seems like a really awkward weapon, because even when maxed out, which I'm pretty sure no one is able to do, because I don't think anyone has a maxed out bestiary yet, I'm pretty sure it's still going to be worse than Dark Claymore. Or I don't know, maybe the difference in strength makes up for the difference in base damage. And add more unique rewards such as Tracking Chip. Enemy. Unlocked at bestiary completion 50% for one enemy. Can be put into the Skinning Blade. Unlocked at bestiary milestone 60, which doubles kills for that one mob, but you can only have 2 tracking chips at once. At 50% island bestiary completion, you get an island tracker, which can be planted in a weapon for 25% more bestiary progress for the entire island. But this costs every bestiary tracking chip for that island to obtain this. Every 5 bestiary milestones, you obtain 1 armor shard. 9 of these make 1 armor link, which can be fused with any piece of armor to permanently grant it 75 defense and 25 health. Every 150 bestiary milestones, you get 1 tracker die, which is an animated die similar to Lucky Die, but more vibrant. And once obtained, the following can be obtained from Rusty. Armor shards, after all have been obtained, would cost 25 mil, and the die, once obtained, costs 440 mil. Now for the first 2, Tracking Chip and Island Tracker, I 100% don't think these should be added. The bestiary is a way to track how many enemies you've killed or have helped killing, and it should stay that way. There should be no way to influence how much 1 kill counts towards the bestiary. 1 kill or 1 assist towards a kill should just count as 1 towards the bestiary, and that's it. If you want to suggest easier bestiary milestones for later game players, you should instead suggest more difficult mobs with high bestiary tiers and lower kill counts per tier. Whether people will like that or not is not something that I know, but in no way do I think 1 kill should count as more than 1 kill in the bestiary. As for the armor shard, it just seems really out of place to have this unlocked here, of all places. Like, the armor shard and armor link itself is fine, I guess, but it just feels odd to make a consumable like that unlocked from something with, well, currently, a limited amount of rewards. Like, it just doesn't make sense to have this added, and the ideal way to get more of them is to buy them from Rusty. I know there are other items like this in the game, like the Reaper Orb, but that doesn't mean it's a good idea, so to say. As for the tracker die, I do think it's fine to have it like this, but it could also be changed to be more fitting towards the bestiary. For example, what if at bestiary milestone 100, you unlock the chance to drop the tracker die. This starts off as a 1 in 10 million drop chance from killing any mob. I think the same chance as Legendary Phoenix. Then, every 50 bestiary milestones, the chance to drop it increases by 10%. So at 150 bestiary milestone, you'll have a 1 in 9 million chance to drop the die. At the current max bestiary milestone of 339, you would have a 40% chance increase to get the die, meaning it'd be a 1 in 6 million chance. If the admins are worried about this being too common as more bestiary milestones are added, they could add a cap of maybe 50%, maybe 100% if you're feeling generous. But yeah, I feel like that way of obtaining it just makes more sense considering it comes from the bestiary. If you do want to guarantee at least 1, maybe as a milestone reward, you could be given a die every 200 milestones. But I still think it would be cool to have another way to obtain the die. Honestly, overall, I do think the bestiary is pretty fine as it is now. It could definitely be better, don't get me wrong, but I don't think this is the way to make it better. And is that a fishing update I see? Bobbin time buff / rework plus flying fish buff? Bobbin Time is a weird enchant. It's meant for fishing, yet as soon as you catch a rare sea creature, your buff from it disappears because there's no bobbers down. I feel like this could be changed so that Bobbin Time can have more practical use aside from Magic Find maxing for Diana. Bobbin Time would now give you a buff based on the amount of people in the same fishing zone as you. What is a fishing zone? A fishing zone is an area in Skyblock where the primary/common activity is fishing. These zones work like they do in the scorecard on the right of the screen. A few examples would be the Fisherman's Pond in the Hub, the Hot Springs in Jerry's Workshop, the Lake in the Spider's Den, and the Dojo in the Crimson Isles. For every player in one of these zones, you will get +1 person to your Bobbin Time buff, whether they're fishing or not. This small change would encourage people to fish together and would allow Bobbin Time to keep its buffs, even if you fish up a Yeti or Jobus. Other changes: Trophy Fish chance would be buffed by Bobbin Time, as well as Double Hook chance, and a complete list of fishing zones, which I don't think is totally necessary to look at right now. Honestly, I think this is like near perfect, at least compared to what Bobbin Time currently is. This would make the enchant actually functional, instead of being counterproductive by removing the buff when the buff is most needed. This way, people fishing together actually benefit from fishing together. Crazy concept, I know. Yeah, overall just really good idea. Along with this, the Mythic Flying Fish has become underwhelming, as updates have added more fishing speed and sea creature chance to the game. Flying Fish only gives 25 fishing speed over Ammonites, if max mining/fishing. 25 fishing speed at the cost of over 10 to 15 sea creature chance just isn't a fair trade, and leaves the Flying Fish as a pet that you can use, but don't really need to because Ammonite is cheaper and overall better stat-wise. I propose a simple change to the Flying Fish pet that will make it a meta pet without changing too much about it. New perk, Glinted Bobber/Shining Bobber. For starters, Deep Sea Diver/Magmatic Diver would be moved to being the second perk of this pet. Rare/Epic would only buff armor by 15%. Waterbender/Lava Bender would be replaced with the Glinted Bobber perk for Legendary, and Shining Bobber once upgraded to Mythic. Glinted Bobber grants a 0.2 to 20% chance to catch rare sea creatures in water, and Shining Bobber grants a 0.2 to 22% chance to catch rare sea creatures in water and lava. This buff would work with whalebait and act similarly. This one change would make Flying Fish go from a pet that isn't really worth the trade-off from Ammonite to a pet any fisher would want to optimize for. Who doesn't want more Jobuses? This also makes the mythic variant of the pet far more worth getting compared to now. Again, just a really good idea, honestly. Waterbender and Lava Bender are kinda just useless, so replacing them and giving Flying Fish an actually useful perk would be pretty nice. The 20% chance does seem like a lot, and so it could be lowered, but again, that is just a matter of balance, while the concept itself is really good still. Mythic Flying Fish is undoubtedly the most expensive fishing pet in the game, and while it is marginally the best, I do think, it would still be nice to see Flying Fish get a good buff. Though, to play devil's advocate a little bit, it is important to remember that Ammonite is only comparably good to Flying Fish if you have really high mining and fishing stats. That is to say, you could have no mining levels and very low fishing level and still use Flying Fish. But to make the most out of Ammonites, you do need to have both good mining stats and good fishing stats. In that case, it does make sense that Ammonite would be around as good as Flying Fish, if not arguably better, but as someone who fishes a lot, I would like to see at least Mythic Flying Fish getting a buff. Of course, it would be hard to justify giving 2 unique perks to just the mythic variant, but still, I would like to see ways for players to increase the chance to catch rare sea creatures. Currently, the only way is whalebait, so it would be nice to see more variants of that. Now, that aside, how about we look at one more suggestion? Oh, this one looks pretty interesting. Bank Enchant buff. Bank sucks. With 4 out of 4 bank, you save 200% of your coins on death and gain 10 coins on enemy kill. Saving coins on death is absolutely useless because by the time you get it, you should already have a piggy bank. 10 coins on enemy kill is abysmal, especially when you aren't able to kill enemies quickly because you don't have Legion or Swarm or any good ultimates. Now, how I'd suggest we fix Bank? Bank 5, lose no coins on death. Scavenger is 25% more effective. Gain 0.1 magic find for every 1 million coins scavenged while wearing this armor. Max 5. Rationale: lose no coins on death, still basically worthless, but allows early game players to avoid spending pork chops repairing. Also reworded so it's clearer. Scavenger is 25% more effective, allows the buff to scale with level more. However, it certainly isn't a crazy increase. This is from someone with 10 mil Eleanors. Gain 0.1 magic find for every 1 million coins scavenged while wearing this armor. This is the one I'm least sure about. However, it needed something more than a small buff to be worthwhile. This means you'll have to scavenge 50 million coins to get the full buff, with which full Eleanor's in full bank would take around 50,000 Enderman kills, if my math is right. So while it would be plus 20 magic find, it'd take a large grind and I'm pretty sure it still wouldn't outclass Bobbin Time or Legion with enough players. Alternatives. While I think my idea is good, there are some other reworks which could fix it. You could make it an equipment ultimate, you could retune it a bit and make it a normal enchant, you could grant stats for your bank level, purse money, or gold collection, you could be thrown into the volcano and be forgotten, or it could give a permanent golden apple effect. In summary, bank sucks and is a waste of XP levels to use. Which is true. While I do think bank is pretty bad, well, really bad, and deserves a rework, I don't really think the magic find solution is the best. It would definitely make bank worth considering, but considering how easy it is to get, I don't think it should even be considered alongside Bobbin Time or Legion. Even if it would take a long grind to max out, I think it would make more sense to add a new ultimate enchant that's more focused on magic find. In my opinion, the best way to rework bank would be to retune it and turn it into a normal enchant. Bank, despite being an ultimate enchant, is already along the lines of something like Feather Falling 6 or Infinite Quiver 6. It was designed to be an early game ultimate enchant, but at the current point of the game, there are already so many things that just outclass it. Right now, I think the best way to fix it would be to just make it not an ultimate enchant anymore. But that's just my thoughts on it. It would be nice to see it made better, but considering how easy it is to get, I don't think it should be that good. So yeah, those are some Skyblock ideas shared by the Hypixel forum community. If you want to share your own ideas, you should head to the forums and make a thread about it. Maybe I'll see it and make another video about it too. Now, there are thousands upon thousands of other suggestions that I just will not have the time to cover, but maybe I'll make a part 2 and look at even more suggestions. And yeah, with all of that out of the way, thank you all for watching, be sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you all in the next one.